part of what the Ninth Circuit is thinking about is the reverse side of the question of what Judge Immergut had to think about, which is this kind of order, the temporary restraining order or an injunction or a stay. In whichever one it is, we're wondering, should the status quo be in place or should it not be protected? So before the TRO is issued, the status quo is, well, the president seems to be able to deploy the troops because the president has ordered it. And so what Judge Immergut had to think about is, okay, if I allow the status quo and I allow these troops to be deployed, will there be irreparable harm to Oregon and Portland? And some of it might be, just the actual physical damage and so on that can occur when the troops are in. Some of it is maybe the damage to the constitutional structure of our government. Some of it is damage to the state sovereignty of having this unwanted federal presence, a federal military presence. And she's balancing that against the likelihood of success by the state. And so in her conclusion, her judgment, the state was likely to win and there would be irreparable harm. So that makes it all the more reason to grant the TRO. Now, when it gets to on the appeal, now the status quo is the president cannot send the troops in because of the TRO. So the Ninth Circuit now would be thinking, okay, should this TRO be stayed? Well, what is the irreparable harm? The irreparable harm to the government now of not being able to deploy the troops. And the government's argument is, well, these horrible things will happen to the ICE building and ICE agents won't be able to enforce federal law and so on. And so again, what do we think are the facts underlying those assertions? If there's, some basis to think that might be true, then the Ninth Circuit might say, well, look, if we don't stay this injunction, then maybe the protests become violent and become like a mini rebellion or insurrection, or there is serious impeding of the ICE agents. And that's irreparable harm because, then the law is not being enforced. If they think that. On the other hand, if they think that, there are these protests and sometimes it's harder for the ICE agents to get out of the building, but that they're not actually being impeded from being able to go out and look for undocumented immigrants and so on. If that's what the Ninth Circuit thinks and draws from Judge Immergut's findings, then they'll probably say, maybe the stay is not warranted.